Well, it's National Public Service Week, but most federal government employees aren't celebrating an initiative announced today to clamp down on sick days. The government says the public service has one of the highest absenteeism rates in Canada and that it's costing taxpayers, you, dearly. Would propose changes to claw back sick pay, to move to a short-term disability plan? Would it punish the sick, or would it curb abuse in the system? Joining me now, the president of the Treasury Board, Tony Clement. Good to have you on, Mr. Clement.
Nice to be back.
Tell me why you've decided to bring changes to public servant sick leave with this announcement.
Well, look, here's the problem that we're trying to solve. And in any given day, 19,000 public servants are off sick throughout the country. The average absentee rate is about 18.7 days per year. When you added weekends, it's almost a month per year. For the average. So clearly we have some issues. And at the other end of the issue, you've got no short-term disability plan. So if a person is off sick with not a lot of seniority, they may be forced to go on EI because they don't have the amount of sick leave that people with more seniority have. So we have problems at sort of both ends of the spectrum. What I'm proposing is to do two things. Number one, have a short-term disability plan that'll be available to employees when they need it. And secondly, have a much more managed long-term disability and short-term disability plan. So we work with people when they are sick to get them back to work, rehabilitated, no longer sick, healthy, get them back to work, and that's our responsibility as an employer. So this is, I think, fair to the taxpayer, but also fair to the employee.
All right, now you use this number 18. The unions actually debate that number. PIPS, PIPSC says that it's closer, one of the big unions says it's closer to 8 days, not 18, and they say, quote, you're misleading Canadians on banked sick days as a liability. Let me show you a statement from the president of one of the largest public sectors union, the Public Service Alliance of Canada. They sent us this, quote, this government needs to stop misleading Canadians about sick leave. It's misleading to call unused sick leave a $5 billion liability. If our members used bank sick leave, it's because they are very sick. If they don't use it, they lose it. They certainly can't cash it out or use it to retire early. The government should be doing more to promote healthy workplaces, prevent illness, and help people who are sick get back to work. Instead, we see cuts, meaning workers doing more with less, and they're getting sicker. That's from Robin Benson, the national president of PSAC. What do you make of that?
Well, of course, look forward to the bargaining sessions when we're going to talk about these issues through collective bargaining. But I would say this. First of all, the number is a real number. We're going to get more details out to the media. I've got some pie charts and some graphs to show that 18.2 day per year number is a real number.
So where do you just tell us, where do you get that number from?
That's a combination of paid and unpaid sick leave. Look, the fact of the matter is, under the collective bargaining agreement right now, each employee gets an average of 15 bankable sick days per year, which can accumulate over time. That's what people use for their sick leave. Well, I'd rather have a system where you have short-term disability that's available when needed, long-term disability that's available after 13 weeks when needed, and have active management where we're working with the employee. We don't cast them off and forget about them. We work with the employee, contact them, work with them.
So what happens? So if I'm sick,
are you still sick? Do you
so
need
if I'm
extra
sick
help?
for something, what happens? Who checks up on you? Do you get calls at home? Do you get someone knocking on the door?
Yeah, absolutely. The insurer's responsibility is to get that person back to work. Do you need any help with rehabilitation? Are you getting the right medicines? Having some care and concern about the employee, but also some responsibility for the taxpayer. Absolutely.
Minister Clement, is there an element here that part of this is that you think maybe public servants are ripping off the system or taking advantage of a system, taking too many sick days than they actually deserve? Is that what is that part of the suggestion here?
I would say the great majority of public servants do not do that, but to the extent that there are people with unwarranted absenteeism, we want to get at that problem, absolutely. And this is no different from the private sector, no different from all the other public sectors. Ontario, for example, got rid of bankable sick days years ago.
Right.
And so all I'm saying is we have to have a system that's fair to the employee, has concern for them to get them back to work healthy, but also has respect for the taxpayer.
So I appreciate that. What, in your view, though, would be the cause, if you compare, as you've done, the number of sick days for the public service and the private sector? You're saying that the public servants have this 18 days. What do you think that is? Why are there more sick days in the public sector? You're saying there's not, if it's not abuse, what is it?
Well, look, there may be some abuse, but the fact of the matter is we are looking for a system that ensures that when you are sick, you have the tools available to you to get back to work. That should be the focus of the disability management system. And to the extent that you have a short-term sickness, again, there is a plan in place that will get you better quickly and get back to your desk or to your job. And so I don't make any apologies for that. I think that's what Canadians expect. And that, quite frankly, is the norm in the private sector and, as I say, in other public sectors as well.
Can I ask you about a performance and productivity tracking system that you introduced
Sure.
a couple of weeks ago that would increase performance reviews and set targets employees would have to meet in order to avoid dismissal? So this is another element of the reforming of the public sector here.
Sure.
Here's part of a letter sent by the president of the Employment and Immigration Union reacting to your comment, and your comment was, quote, "There is simply no way that virtually every single person the federal government hires is going to perform to the standard we expect." That's what you said. Their response was this, quote, "What employer of choice talks about their employees in this manner? His insinuations are deplorable and unacceptable. The men and women of the public service has always proudly served Canadians and continue to do so in the midst of budget cuts and program cuts, layoffs and uncertainty. What justification could there possibly be to treat these workers, your employees, with disrespect?" Don Rogers, National President of the Canadian Employment and Immigration Union. What's your answer to that question? Do you think the changes, do they show a distrust of the public service dedication, or is it, as you say, you're trying to root out the bad apples?
Well, look, I'm actually thinking I'm doing the exact opposite of what they are contending. We have a situation where we don't have across the board an ability for the employer to sit down with the employee and say, here are our expectations, and here's how we're going to evaluate you on your expectations. And if you are subperforming, we want to have a work plan to get you to performing to the standards that we all agreed on. I think that that's fair, and I think your viewers would be surprised that that doesn't exist already. But the fact of the matter is that what I've heard from many public servants is they're working away, they're doing what they can for Canada, doing their job excellently, and there are people on occasion beside them, at the workstation beside them, who are not working very hard, who are taking too much time off, who are not very productive in their work, and it affects the morale of the people who want to work hard. So I actually think I'm working with the public servants who want to work hard for Canada and who are feeling their morale being destroyed because there are some people, some bad apples, as you say, who are not pulling their weight.
Before I let you go, how much
Sure.
money are you going to save with this latest program?
Don't know, quite frankly, because we have to go through the bargaining process.
Right.
And again, at the end of the day, I think what it's about is having healthy, productive employees at their desks or at their stations doing the job for Canada. And I think that will save money, but it also means that we're respecting the taxpayer.
Mr. Clement, you and I both know you've been asked for months since the AG's report about this $3.1 billion for security that's difficult to track. Is there any update on that? Has the government been able, or will the government be able to tell Canadians where that, to account for that $3.1 billion?
Well, look, what you're asking me to do is to do the work of the previous Treasury Board presidents from 2001 to 2009, and to regurgitate information that's already available on the public accounts. But I think we do
I was
need...
just asking, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not asking you to do, I'm saying the Auditor General said it's difficult. We need to find out where it was spent.
Right.
mean, it's a pretty fair request, isn't it?
And the Auditor General, absolutely, and the Auditor General made it very clear that that in fact there was no missing money. It's all available on the public accounts. But certainly, I agree with him that Treasury Board, if they're going to promise to consolidate things and make them presented in a different form, they should have followed through in the years 2001 to 2009. So
right.
I agree with you.
All right, I got to leave it there. Minister Clement, good to have you on the program.
All the best.
All right, that $3.1 billion still unaccounted for. We don't know where it is. We'll keep asking about that one.